In this update about Ghislaine Maxwell, I have to give you fair warning that the information is all over the place. As the court documents are being released to the public, it is the most bizarre information involving Ghislaine Maxwell to date. As you may recall, Judge Prescott told Ghislaine Maxwell and her attorneys last month that the court finds that any minor embarrassment or annoyance resulting from the disclosure of Miss Maxwell's mostly non-testimony about behavior that has been widely reported in the press is far outweighed by the presumption of public access. The judge said this in response to Maxwell's attorneys trying to block the release of the documents. And now I can see why she would not want this information released and what an embarrassment it is. So let's get right to it, but make sure you watch this video all the way through so you find out how Paris Hilton, a foot fetish, and George Clooney are all involved in this update. And please don't forget to hit the like button too. The document that has much of this bizarre information in it is a manuscript written by Virginia Giuffre before her 2015 civil case with Maxwell. That case was settled out of court in 2017, but the manuscript was sealed along with other documents until now. The manuscript was intended to become a book titled The Billionaire's Playboy Club and was meant to be a recounting of experiences Virginia had as a sex trafficking victim under her time with Epstein's control. At one point, the manuscript described how Epstein stroked his loins as Maxwell molested Giuffre, and then Giuffre continues by writing that I didn't know if she was doing this for the sake of his eye candy. And shockingly and disgustingly, Giuffre says this allegedly happened after Epstein and Maxwell asked probing questions about the darker experiences of my young life. At the time, Virginia would have only been 17 years old. Giuffre's manuscript also claimed that Prince Andrew had a foot-licking fetish, and apparently sex with him was, in her words, the longest 10 minutes of my life. Her manuscript described how Prince Andrew would look at her as adorning my young body, particularly my feet, caressing my toes, and licking my arches. While she was only 17 years old, Giuffre claims to have had sex with Prince Andrew on 3 separate occasions, and essentially she was pimped by Epstein and Maxwell. Beyond pimping out underage girls to distant royal figures with foot fetishes, Maxwell was also allegedly conspiring on how to get Paris Hilton into Epstein's massage room. At a party where Paris and Maxwell were both in attendance, Maxwell reportedly saw Paris and asked who she was and said she'd be perfect for Jeffrey, and asked a friend to introduce her to Paris. Luckily, she never got a chance to try and coerce Paris, as Paris would go on to start a modeling career and did not find herself in a similar situation with Maxwell in the future. Maxwell had an infatuation with making Jeffrey happy sexually, as she seemed completely fine finding him endless amounts of children to abuse and meet his 3 orgasms a day demand. She would even abuse these girls herself if it made Epstein happy, or hunt for them at parties as she attempted to do with Paris. But every once in a while, Ghislaine wanted to make just herself happy. And apparently, there are not too many things that make her happier than performing oral sex on actor George Clooney in a bathroom at a business show event. In Giuffre's The Billionaire's Playboy Club, Giuffre writes that Maxwell loved to brag about her rendezvous with various lovers, and that Ghislaine Maxwell was giddy as a schoolgirl after her encounter with George Clooney. I want to make sure that I mention that according to Giuffre, her manuscript is 99% true, though her lawyers have acknowledged at least some of it was fictionalized. So I am not sure what details are embellished and which are true, but any of this being true just adds to the craziness that is this Ghislaine Maxwell case. And finally, this update would not be complete without mentioning the well wishes that Ghislaine continues to get from President Trump. In an odd interview that aired on Monday, August 3rd, President Trump doubled down on wishing her well by invoking the death of Epstein as the death of her boyfriend, and saying he would wish anyone well in her situation. He was reminded that she was being charged with sex trafficking and insisted he still wished her well. So that is the update on Ghislaine Maxwell. And now you know how Paris Hilton, a foot fetish, and George Clooney all have something to do with Ghislaine Maxwell in some way. There are still more documents that will be released and different people that may be identified. So make sure that if you are not already, start following us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube at Human Trafficking Hater. Thanks for listening.